New Orleans Saints head coach Dennis Allen recaps training camp. All right, so this is after the last day of the West Coast swing of training camp for the New Orleans Saints. Dennis Allen is going to talk to the media. This is from the New Orleans Saints YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and take a listen. We'll react and see what the old ball coach has to say.
Yeah, really the last real practice out here in California. I think that kind of wraps most everything up. We'll kind of walk through some stuff tomorrow as we get ready for San Francisco. But I think we got a lot, accomplished in the last few weeks.
Ups and downs. Ups and downs for sure. Defensively, up. Offensively, down. Seems like down. Now maybe that's a bit unfair, because I think the first two possessions of the preseason game against Arizona has kind of soured everyone's taste on this offense. I think the offense was trending in the right direction. I mean, everyone believed what we were hearing was that offense looked good. We were hearing everything except the offensive line looked good. We heard, we kept hearing Chris Olave looked good, and Kubiak and Janoko were energetic and attention to detail and this and this. Then the first two drives happened. I think now everyone's like, okay, you're gonna have to show me something. Reports and all of that is only so good. At some point, and this is the part where it's like maybe it's unfair, but at some point you do have to see it. Will we see it against San Francisco? Who knows? Will we have to wait until Carolina? Will we be going into week one, walking to the dome, turning our TVs on for week one with absolutely no clue of what to expect? Seems like that's a good possibility.
I still think, we've got some things that we need to still improve on, but I think overall, I was pleased with the work that we were able to get done, out here in training camp. So now we'll start turning our attention to San Francisco.
Will you play most every healthy player tomorrow?
We'll see. We'll see. Again, we haven't had really any of those discussions with any of the players. Our focus really is, when we're working, our focus is on the work that we're getting done. And then, probably talk about that this afternoon with the guys and kind of go from there.
Could not having the joint practices with San Francisco influence maybe the way that you look at this game?
Yeah, maybe.
Good question. I think so. I think so. Just a little peek behind the curtain. Most teams treat the second game, preseason game, as the least important of the three, because that's the week of the joint practices. So the joint practices, they kind of go hard, and the joint practices kind of is really more important than the preseason game. Without the joint practices, they have to emphasize the preseason game much more. So the Saints now probably will play, they certainly should play healthy players in this second preseason game, because they're not getting joint practices. They didn't get any of those reps. So I think it is important to treat it differently.
You guys are wanting me to say something. I mean, we're going to focus on, practice what we've been doing, and then we'll have 11 guys out there, I promise.
This is something I don't like about Dennis. And coaches are prickly pears. Sean Payton was a prickly pear. Bill Belichick was a prickly pear. Mike Tomlin can be a prickly pear. Like, they're not all buddy-buddy with the media. They're not all buddy-buddy. It's not all the best answers. Some coaches are like that, sure, but some coaches are just going through the motions when it comes to the interviews, and they're just kind of getting it done with. Dennis seems to always have this air of, like, it's the media versus him. He always kind of makes it sound like he's being attacked by the media, and this is the second preseason game. The media's in California. They've made this trip out there. They've been with the team. They're reporting on the team. They're just asking, are you going to play starters? Are you going to play healthy players? And he's acting like it's the biggest secret in the world. Brother, it's the second week of preseason. If there's ever a time to be jovial, if there's ever a time to be kind of transparent with the media, if there's ever a time to just, who cares, let it rip, why so serious? If there's ever a time for that, it's right now. Like, training camp just ended. You don't have to be in this defensive shell all the time when it comes to the media.
Rashid Shaheed reason for absence today.
Toe or foot?
Toe or foot?
Yeah.
The last rep of the first team situational drill at the end didn't happen after the fight. Was that what was the decision there?
That was 2 minute, right?
Yeah, the 40.
Yeah, I didn't want to throw a Hail Mary pass.
Yeah, now that you've had a chance to look back, your decision to come out here, are you happy with coming out?
Yeah, I think we got a lot of great work done, and certainly we enjoy being, in front of our fans, and we'll have a couple opportunities to do that this upcoming week with a Tuesday night practice.
Yeah, Tuesday night at Tulane at Ullman Stadium. As a practice in front of the public. I think an autograph session afterwards. But yeah, I think it is good for a team to get away from everything. It's not just getting away from the fans, but it's getting away from where they're comfortable. It's getting away from their own beds. It's getting away from their big screen TVs and their mansions and their families and their friends and their whatever. It's getting away from all that. It's getting to football. It's getting to the team. It's getting to an isolation. So I don't blame them at all for going out west or going somewhere else. A lot of teams do this during the season. A lot of teams during the season will stay out. Like if they're on a West Coast swing, they'll stay for like 2 weeks. They'll stay out there like a mini training camp. And it usually is treated as kind of like a retreat where the players can just fully focus, camaraderie, brotherhood, whatever. So this is a tactic that is used not just in preseason, not just in training camp, but also during the season.
Just against, right.
I did see where some fans are saying like they ran to California so the fans wouldn't be able to see what's going on, which I think is the funniest thing in the world. There are beat reporters covering every second of this team. The team is not running to keep practices hidden from the fans. I can guarantee you that is not part of their thought process.
Tulane, and then a Friday afternoon practice, 1 o'clock, just like the Tennessee game's going to be. There in the Dome, so we'll get a couple opportunities to get out in front of our fans, and we're excited about being able to do that. I do think getting out of the heat and humidity, I think, was beneficial for our guys.
Yeah, it's also huge.
And like I said, I think we got a lot of really good work done, and I think our guys being together for what really amounts to about a month with very minimal distractions, I think was beneficial to our football team.
I agree with that.
Yeah, you talk a lot about guys like catching your eye. I'm kind of wondering if like the inverse of that is true a little bit. Guys who maybe like started camp strong and then.
He is absolutely not going to answer this question. Great question, but he's not going to answer it.
You notice anyone kind of cool off? I'm not asking for like specifics, but does that happen over the?
Well, look, I mean, honestly, over the course of training camp, there's a lot of ebbs and flows as to where these guys are at, and
sure.
In particular when you're talking about some young players,
100%. Like he's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He shouldn't. But this is probably the right line of answering where you say, yeah, it happens to everyone. Everyone's going to have good days. They're going to have bad days. It's going to be kind of like a player is hot for a couple days and they cool off, have a couple bad days, and vice versa can happen where they start off slow, figure things out, get into the swing of things, and they end on a high note. It happens. So. I mean, we hear that day to day, right? We hear some days Spencer Rattler's the best player we've ever seen. The next day, he's not so great. Jake Hayner, same thing. Some days he's the best player ever. Some days not so great. The offense, the defense, whatever. So very normal. But I think this reporter may have been fishing for a Trevor Penning or an offensive line response. But obviously, Allen's not going to come out there and be like, yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I think blank player was pretty bad.
They have some good days. They have some bad days. Some things that are good, some things that are not good. Not every day is a perfect day. Not every day do you feel great when you come out here every day. And I'm looking for the guys that can push through those times when it's not going as well, or maybe you don't feel as good. I'm looking for guys that can push through that stuff. And so, I think you notice some on both accounts. And ultimately what it boils down to is, who are going to be the most consistent players that we feel like we can count on, that we know exactly what we're going to get on a day in and day out basis.
It's the name of the game, especially during a regular season. I mean, the regular season is so brutal. It's so taxing. It's so tough to travel, the playing hurt and all that. So it is about consistency. It is about who can push through for those 17 games. Who can be the most consistent? When called upon, who can be the most consistent? Not who, if every single thing lines up right, who has the highest ceiling, or if all the perfect variables work out, who can be the best in that one individual moment. It is who can be the most consistent to give them the best chance of winning.
Because I think as coaches, we can plan for that. It's much more difficult when you're trying to create a plan and I don't know what I'm getting out of this guy from one day to the next. Is he going to be there? Is he going to be healthy? Is he not going to be healthy? Those are challenging things. And so the consistency, I think, is important.
Josiah Azira?
Ankle.
And then Michael Jacobson? I don't think we've asked about him.
Foot.
And is Fuaga's back injury just normal tightness? Anything of concern there?
He's rehabbing.
Okay.
Will he be able to play Sunday?
I don't know.
I mean, just like for the sake of possibly alleviating concern, like is that a week one?
I don't think I would tell you can go home and rest at night fairly comfortably.
So that was about Talise Fuaga. So Nick asked, can you just kind of ease the concern? Is Fuaga dealing with an injury that's going to be lingering, or is it just a general tightness, general tweak? And Alan said that we can kind of relax. So Fuaga, because when we saw the tweet, I mean, that was a legit doomsday scenario. If Fuaga did get hurt, and if Fuaga was missing an extended period of time, that would be a time to hit that panic button, because we're already shallow on the offensive line. I'm not splitting the atom telling y'all that, but for him to go down, oh my God. So I'm glad to hear that it's not expected to be any kind of an injury that we should be concerned about.
Derek Carr's had like a few plays where he's gotten stepped on. Are you concerned about that at all, or is that just happens?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't like it.
It's such these questions, and this is where I don't blame Dennis for being prickly. I mean, it's like, are you concerned with Derek Carr getting stepped on? That's the question. That is the actual question that he's being asked. Going into the season, are you concerned about Derek Carr getting stepped on? How are you supposed to answer that? Yeah, I am concerned about Derek Carr getting stepped on. Do I game plan to get Derek Carr non-stepped on? No, just something that happens. What are you supposed to say? That's a crazy question.
But as a head coach, you look at a couple of things. I mean, we're talking about staying off the quarterback, doing all those things, and yet the most effective and best rush in football is the ability to rush with power. I'm pleased with our defensive ends.
Yeah, I bet the defensive ends have looked like the greatest players in the world with this offensive line.
Interior linemen also, our ability to rush with power. That's where it all starts. I see all these guys coming out of college, and they put up great stats in college and they have a lot of sacks, but all they do is freaking run around the tackle.
Man, I've talked about it. How many times have I talked about that, ladies and gentlemen? If you have watched this channel for a while, I say that all the time. In college, if you got a guy who's a big sack guy and he's getting most of his sacks from running beyond the quarterback, that does not translate. One, because college quarterbacks escape out of the back of the pocket because they're physically gifted enough to escape out of the back and run around. Doesn't work in the NFL. Two, college quarterbacks hold the ball for much longer. If a rusher is rushing around, if he goes past the quarterback, chart that as a dead play. Chart that as an F. If that's his angle of a sack, dead play. Graded an F. And if he gets 20 sacks in his college season and 15 of them are from running around the quarterback, that ain't good. That is not good. That will not work in the NFL. 100%. I've said, me and Dennis, we're on the same page there.
And it doesn't happen in our league. That may happen every now and then. But you're not winning on a consistent basis, so you have to be able to rush the quarterback with power.
Yeah.
And that's why we've always
or you got to have one hell of a move.
The bigger, longer defensive ends instead of the smaller, guys, because at some point to get from point A to point B, I'm going to have to go through that wall, right? And it just stands to reason that the bigger, stronger guys are going to be able to do that a lot easier.
There you go. Dennis Allen, ball coach. Ladies and gentlemen, we are close. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Well, 2.5 weeks until we are in the season. So let me know in the comments below what you thought about this, what you think about where the Saints currently stand, and I will see you in the next video.